Marine biologists have found sharks captured off the coast of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, that have tested positive for cocaine. The scientists gathered 13 sharks that were accidentally caught in fishing nets between 2021 and 2023 and tested them for cocaine as well as benzoylecgonine, the main byproduct of cocaine. And every single one of the 13 sharks tested positive for cocaine in their muscle and liver tissues, and 12 tested positive for benzoylecgonine in their muscle tissues as well. I don't know if 13 is a small sample size, but it was still surprising to me, in my admittedly unprofessional opinion, that every single shark had been exposed to cocaine. I know when I say shark, you are conjuring images in your mind of probably like great white sharks, but these were Brazilian sharp-nosed sharks, which are actually pretty small and kind of stupid looking. Nonetheless, these are still sharks which are being exposed to cocaine. I think it goes without saying that cocaine is probably not good for sharks or other marine life for that matter. Actually, the effects of cocaine have not been well studied in sharks, but other marine animals such as eels and zebrafish have shown deleterious behavioral effects when exposed to cocaine. So it's plausible that exposure to cocaine could change sharks' behavior, such as possibly making them more aggressive, which would be bad. Also, cocaine is not good for humans. People do eat sharp-nosed sharks, so these sharks having cocaine in them is probably concerning as far as food safety goes. There are many ways in which these sharks could have been exposed to cocaine. The favored theory seems to be that cocaine is excreted by human users of cocaine, which finds itself into wastewater, which is then not treated properly to remove contaminants such as cocaine and is finally released into the ocean. Also possible is pollution from illegal drug labs or spillage from drug trafficking. How much cocaine are people taking in Rio that their sewage is making the sharks coked up? I looked it up. Brazil makes up 2.6% of the world's population, but has 8% of the world's cocaine users. Wow. The issue of sharks being exposed to cocaine has been an area of concern for scientists for a while. I first came into awareness of this last year, and I had talked about it in an episode. There was a show on Discovery's Shark Week called Cocaine Sharks, not to be confused with the horrible movie of the same name, Cocaine Sharks.
I think I saw something in the water. I think it was a shark.
The Discovery cocaine sharks went to the Florida Keys and made these fake cocaine bales and let them float in the water and demonstrate how sharks ate the fake cocaine bales and concluded that sharks could plausibly eat cocaine bales if they came across them in the wild, which bales of cocaine do sometimes end up in the water because of illegal drug trafficking. It wasn't exactly scientifically rigorous or anything. It's probably also not how sharks usually come into contact with cocaine in the wild. It's probably more so through wastewater pollution, but it was interesting. And now we have the study which provides evidence for the idea of sharks actually being exposed to drug pollution, which is bad. A man named Tom Waddington is currently on a solo mission to row across the Atlantic Ocean. A few weeks ago, he shared a video on Instagram of a pod of pilot whales approaching and then surrounding at his boat, which at first he seemed delighted by. Until one of the whales literally rammed into his boat. At that point, he realized that his boat was in danger of being capsized by one of these whales running into it. Here's a quote, "And I was like, oh my God. And suddenly it turned from David Attenborough into Moby Dick. And I was really scared. He tried yelling and waving his oars at the whales to get them to leave, but that didn't work. I think that's actually the opposite of what you're supposed to do. I think you're just supposed to stay still and quiet, and eventually the whales will lose interest." But anyways, he tried then rowing away from the whales, but the pod followed him for more than 2 hours. And I think the whales, there were even more whales that joined him in that time. The video on Instagram cuts after he was hit by the whale. And then suddenly there's literally like hundreds of whales surrounding him. It's actually kind of terrifying. But Waddington made it out unscathed, unlike the people in our next story. Off the coast of New Hampshire, which I guess does in fact have a coast, 2 people were launched into the sea when a humpback whale breached out of the water and landed on their vessel, causing the boat to capsize. Both of the people were uninjured and rescued from the water by onlookers, and the boat was actually later recovered with just a cracked engine. But that has to ruin your day, right? The whale was probably lunge feeding, which is where whales open their mouths really big, and then they swim fast through a dense population of prey, forcing like a ton of water into their mouths. And then they force the water through their baleen to filter out the prey. In this case, the whale was probably lunging upwards out of the water. The point is that the whale hit the boat by accident, probably. It's never the poor whale's fault, is it? Except in the case of our next story. The killer whales of Gibraltar have sunk yet another boat last month. On July 24th, 3 people were aboard a yacht, which had to make an emergency call for a tow after orcas had disabled their steering. However, before help could arrive, the orcas returned to finish the job, and the boat was sunk. Everybody else, however, was fine. We've been following the boat sinking orcas for over a year now, and every article I read says that, oh, this is just a fad, right, among the orcas. This is just a fad, and they will probably get bored of it eventually. But so far, nope. They're still at it. It's crazy that orcas can have fads. Have I ever talked about the orcas of Puget Sound, which in 1987 had a fad where a bunch of them wore salmons on their heads? Adorable. But that fad went away eventually, so the boat sinking fad will probably also go away eventually. The other thing that I find funny is that scientists say that when orcas attack boats, they're not being aggressive. They don't show signs of being aggressive or show signs of stress, right? They're just playing. Maybe the orcas just don't know their own strength. I read that orcas sometimes play with other animals a little too aggressively to the point of killing them. I just think it's funny that the orcas are just playing around. But for the boat owners, it's like the worst day of their lives. Let's move on to our next story, in which a man from Nantucket was returning from a fishing trip when he stopped to get groceries. When he was in the parking lot, he didn't have any pockets in his pants, so he had his wallet in his shopping cart. And then I guess like a seagull just came down and just stole his wallet and then flew away, which completely sucks, to be honest. And there's this video of the seagull the guy had taken on his cell phone. It had flown onto the roof, and it was just like going through his wallet, like pulling out dollar bills. And then it just flies away with the wallet. So that's 1-0 in the seagull-human relations war. But that brings us to the next story. A New Jersey man who was visiting a pier is facing criminal charges for animal cruelty after allegedly getting so upset about a seagull trying to steal French fries from his daughter that he decapitated the seagull. I mean, seagulls are kind of annoying, but that does seem like an overreaction. Also probably traumatic for the daughter, I would think. The article said that he had asked employees of the pier for a trash bag while holding the dead seagull, which is weird how nonchalant he seemed to be about it. The man later became uncooperative with police officers who were investigating an unrelated investigation, which led to his arrest of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. But after, he was also charged with third-degree animal cruelty. So I guess we'll call that even with the seagulls. I guess it's also illegal to kill seagulls because seagulls are protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918. So they can steal our wallets and crap, and we can't even fight back. Dang it. I mean, you can, clearly. You'll just get in trouble for it. 5 Sri Lankan fishermen have died after drinking an unknown liquid from bottles they had found floating in the ocean. I guess maybe the men thought that the liquid was alcohol. And to be fair, maybe it was. Maybe it was just like methanol or something, or ethylene glycol. I don't know. Something you shouldn't be drinking. It was a Diet Mountain Dew. That's what was in it. Diet Mountain Dew. This is a tangent, but it's weird because both current vice presidential candidates, Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, both like Diet Mountain Dew, which is weird. Tim Walz has had several tweets revealing his love of Diet Mountain Dew in the past, and J.D. Vance had a somewhat awkward viral moment involving Diet Mountain Dew.
Democrats say that it is racist to believe, well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good. I love you guys.
Diet Mountain Dew seems to be one of the only thing Vance and Waltz have in common, which is kind of weird because I found a morning consult poll from 6 years ago that found that Diet Mountain Dew was among the most unfavorable brands among Democrats, Republicans, and independents. At one point several years ago, the country was united in its hatred for Diet Mountain Dew. But not anymore. The tides are changing. We don't even need to talk about the whole couch controversy. The couch controversy, how there was a tweet that just made up how Vance wrote about having carnal relations, we'll say, with the couch in his autobiography, how the tweet went viral, how the Associated Press issued a fact check debunking the tweet, and then later how the AP article was taken down because it didn't go through the proper review process, but it only just made people think, wait a minute, did Vance actually do that thing? And then Walls made a joke about it in his speech.
And I gotta tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
I mean, I guess I just talked about it. That whole saga was weird and kind of gross. Anyways, this is a good teaching moment. Don't drink random bottles of liquid you find floating in the ocean. I'm back to the Sri Lankan fisherman. All right, let's move on. At a pool in Massachusetts, a broken jar of salsa caused $20,000 in damages. Some of the broken glass had gotten into the pool, and when glass is in water, it becomes basically invisible. So the only way to make sure all the glass is gone is to drain the pool. In this particular pool, they had to drain the pool, clean the pool, which involved power washing and then vacuuming, refilling the pool, rebalancing the pool's chemicals, and then testing the pool for bacteria, all of which costed, I guess, $20,000. At first, that sounded like a lot of money to me, but the pool was 220,000 gallons. So to be fair, the water to refill the pool was probably the majority of the cost. I mean, there's a reason why most pools have rules against bringing glass near the pool. Why salsa, of all things? A Kentucky motel was ordered to pay $2 million to the family of a 76-year-old man that died after he turned on the shower in his motel room and was struck with hot water that reached at least 150 degrees Fahrenheit. After falling to the floor of the tub, the man continued to be burned by the hot water until he was able to be removed by two people who were also in the motel with him, resulting in second and third degree burns, which later required skin grafts. After spending several months in the hospital, the man died. I'm going to be honest, this story unlocked a new fear for me. Like, I was already aware of the possibility of slipping in the shower and being injured, but now I'm conscious of the possibility of being burned to death. You got to test it. You got to test the water before you get in. Although I guess if you're like already in like the shower, sometimes you like adjust the temperature. All right. Well, I guess I just have to leave the shower every time I want to adjust the temperature. Great. Problem solved. A new technology has been unveiled by researchers from Tokyo University about a way to make robots look more realistic. The researchers engineered living skin tissue and human-like ligaments that can be used to cover a robotic skeleton in order to make robots look more lifelike. They even produced a video of their robot with this living skin. Let's look at the supposedly more realistic robot. Oh, God! All right. I mean, I think they're still working on it, actually. I'm sad to announce a horrible car accident on the I-294 near Chicago, in which the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile hit another car and rolled onto its side. Luckily, no one was injured, but what a bizarre accident to get into. Imagine that being the last thing you see is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile T-boning you. I was looking up accidents involving the Wienermobile. I guess last year in Las Vegas, someone stole the catalytic converter from the Wienermobile. Like, wouldn't you feel stupid stealing from the Wienermobile? And everybody knows that I like to end these weird news reports on a really good article, and this week's no different. A Nigerian man has set a world record by twerking for 3 hours and 30 minutes in order to raise awareness about depression and mental health. A quote from the article. His message is that no record is too crazy, too big, too great, or too little to achieve. There's always space for everyone and their unique attributes. You know what the story reminded me of? The 243-page book, How to Goodbye Depression, If You Constrict Anus 100 Times Every Day, Malarkey or Effective Way. I guess there's all sorts of ways to beat depression with your butt. All right, that's it.